Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Boobies and Newbies. You can follow us at Boobies Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get a little extra bonus Boobies content every month, you can support us on Patreon at Boobies Podcast. Welcome to Boobies and Newbies, the podcast that asks novice romance readers to think outside the dick in a box and brave the unbridled world of erotica. I'm your host, Kelly Reynolds, and today we are taping our May Sexy Spotlight Series episode alongside the lovely Miss Abby. Hello, Abby.
Oh, hello, Kelly.
Abby and I go all the way back to our chilly days in Chicago as we both attended DePaul University.
Yes, we did.
I was there for grad school. Abby was there as a baby undergrad.
Little wee bab.
Yes, and here we are in Los Angeles where it's a tad warmer. Not that much warmer, though.
No, not right now. It's been raining.
Yeah.
I've been, wearing pants to bed.
Yeah.
Instead of
So
shorts
you
or
don't normally wear pants to bed.
No, of course not. Why would I do that? But now I am.
I'm anti-pants in general. Just if I don't need to wear them, it's like pants and bra. If I don't need to wear them, I won't.
Fair. Fair.
And I know people listening from, outside of California are probably like, oh my God, why are these bitches complaining about the weather? It's, we're buried under ice and water and snow.
We're drowning. We're on fire. And I'm like, I'm just cold.
Yeah, we'll be on fire again in October,
Don't
November.
worry. I'm sure
it's
something
coming.
will,
Yeah, so just know that our fire is coming. Our snow is never coming.
Never.
I wish
if it does,
was.
I think I might freak out, though.
Do you miss it at all, the weather? At least, because you're from the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm from Mass originally, so I kind of miss it. I miss, the change in weather.
Yeah.
The same weather every single day can get a little bit, stir crazy.
Yeah,
almost.
for sure.
So this has actually been pretty welcome.
Right.
But now I'm ready for it to be warm. So
and
I'm hello?
I'm with you. I grew up in San Francisco area where it's pretty much the same year round. I feel like the last few years, hashtag global warming, it's gotten much colder in the wintertime than I remember it being growing up, for sure. But yeah, living in LA, I kind of just thought it was always going to be super hot all the time, which is not something that I'm personally interested in.
Me neither.
Yeah, and then when it's cold, still in May, cold for LA.
For LA, yeah.
We're just kind of oh my God, what's the point of living here?
Oh my God.
But the first day it hits 90 degrees, everyone's going to be crying.
I wish it were 60 again.
Yeah, exactly. Is there a place, I want to live in the perfect place where it never gets below 30 degrees, but it's never hotter than 65.
Oh God, does it even exist?
If it does, and if somebody lives there and they're listening to this podcast.
Please, write in, let us know.
Let us know.
I want to move there. I can work remote.
Yeah,
I'm an artist. I can do whatever I want.
For sure.
The rent's probably cheaper there.
That's the beauty of being an artist.
That's right.
So fantastic.
You just start.
And the rent is for sure cheaper there, wherever it is. Because it's cheaper anywhere but here.
Here, yeah.
Good heavens. Well, anyway, today's Sexy Spotlight Series topic comes from actually a discussion that I had on Twitter with somebody where they had posted an excerpt of a Mr. Clean erotic fan fiction.
No.
And I was like, wait a second, this can't be a thing. I forget, oh God, I'll have to look up and see who it was that had posted this originally, but they said, yeah, I've fallen down the Mr. Clean erotic fan fiction well. And I was like, that's not a thing.
That can't be a thing.
And basically, and I thought of you when I thought of fan fiction, because I feel like we must have talked about fan fiction before. Because you were the first person I thought of where I was like, oh my gosh, Abby needs to be my guest for this.
Well, I'm flattered.
Yeah, and maybe it's because I thought of you as an animator, and so that just kind of translated into my, I don't know why I equated like
storytelling, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's because I always associated fan fiction with a lot of people who write it and read graphic novels and comics.
There's definitely a correlation. Yeah.
I guess that's kind of my understanding of fan fiction, because it's funny, we've had guests on the show before and I've asked them, what I always ask the guests at the beginning, which is, have you ever read a romance before? Had you ever, thought about reading a romance before, and the answers across the board have pretty unanimously been no, except for A, 50 Shades of Grey, B, Nicholas Sparks, or C, fanfiction.
That is so fascinating to me.
And it's something that I guess when I started my romance reading journey.
Mm-hmm. At the tender age of 2.
No.
Oh, okay. Just popped out of the womb with 50 Shades in her hand.
No, God, that was the one too. Like, I mean, speaking of fan fiction, and we'll get into that for sure.
Oh,
you can't talk about fan fiction in 2019 and not mention 50 Shades of Grey. No. But, definitely not the tender age of 2. I mean, 4.5, maybe. Got to keep it, relatively PG.
Right. You have to be able to read words.
At least through, grade school,
Probably, yeah.
And, but, yeah, it was never something that was on my radar. It just wasn't. And I think it's because fan fiction, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know that you're going to know so much more about this than I am.
Aw, shucks.
I'm the newbie today. I know.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
But I feel like fan fiction... Just the term fan fiction kind of comes from fandom, and that
100%.
It's okay.
100%.
That it specifically comes from these very specific fandoms, and we usually associate fandoms with Star Trek, Harry Potter, Star Wars, even Twilight, Marvel, all these things that kind of exist.
Large franchises, big fan base.
Exactly, TV shows, comic series, something that
True
goes
Blood,
beyond...
Teen Wolf.
Oh, God, I would love a True Blood fanfic.
I bet you there's one we can find. If we're going to do a little live demo of this website, absolutely, we can probably find one. Yeah.
Oh, God, I would love that. You know what? And it's so funny, because we talk about True Blood and Sex and the City on this show, too often.
Nice.
And part of it's because I have a Sex and the City reference for everything. It's my number one problematic fave. Yeah, and then True Blood always comes up because I work in a very professional studio setting, sense the laughter here. And the microphone that my guests use usually needs to be propped up a couple extra inches. And
just a little bit.
What better way to do that with a box set True Blood DVD?
Oh, yes. Baby.
I know. I love DVDs. I would still have VHS tapes, honestly.
If I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I would live for True Blood fan fiction, so we will have to make that happen. But tell me just kind of, I did a little bit of research myself too, but I'd love to hear your take on where fan fiction kind of comes from. Mm-hmm. Just as far back as we know, some of the origins of fan fiction. What do you got?
Well, back in the Triassic period.
Oh, yes, of course.
When the dinosaurs were writing symbols in the sand.
That's where the dinosaur erotica comes
That's
from?
right.
Is fan fiction?
We found fossils.
Oh,
no, okay.
God.
I kid, but that would be cool. Archaeologists, if you find any dinosaur fan fiction out there, let me know.
Yeah.
The question was the history.
Yes.
So, my understanding is it started with Star Trek.
Okay.
So, Star Trek was a wonderful series that was relatively progressive at the time that it came out. There was people of color in the main cast.
Oh, yeah.
They were exploring alien worlds. They were doing this, fictional world, but it was wrapped in science. It was this, mind-blowing thing, which, by the way, I believe science fiction was started as a genre by a female writer.
Awesome.
So,
I love
women
that.
empowerment right off the bat.
Why does that doesn't even surprise me.
No,
I don't know why that would surprise
natural.
anybody.
Yeah.
Ugh, God.
Duh. So, that show came out, and then I believe what happened next was a Spock and Kirk erotic novel, or romantic novel.
A whole novel.
Was published in, a newspaper or a magazine.
Okay.
Because we don't have the internet at this point.
And if you're going, and if you're going to do fanfic off of that series, what better two
Who else are you
going
to do than the characters that seem to have, the closest relationship without it being explicitly romantic?
It's kind of like the origin of bromance, sort of.
For sure. That kind of, light homoerotic,
yes.
They're so passionate and care for each other.
All we need to do is throw them in a bedroom.
All we need to do is just, give one of them a boner, and suddenly...
Yeah, can't contain themselves.
There they go. So I believe that's where it started.
Okay.
And then it progressed. The internet came alive. Internet forums. Fanfiction.net is where I believe the original, like, fanfiction website took place. I remember reading, like, my first fanfiction on fanfiction.net.
Okay.
It was a Naruto fanfiction. That is an anime, for anybody who doesn't know, about ninjas.
What is it called?
Naruto. Naruto.
Okay, no, that's so interesting because I looked up sort of like origins of fanfiction, and obviously anybody listening who knows stuff about this, like, please let us know. You know, I would love
details
to know things about this. I think, you know, the show is called Boobies and Noobies, and the whole thing is that I invite people on the show who are newbies to the romance genre. But I'm a newbie to this, and I think it's just as important for me to understand.
Education is key to understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially when it relates to, you know, a lot of the stuff that I read in a way. I mean, it really is romance and erotica. It's just in a different
It's just in a different format.
forum.
That's it, yeah.
But when I did look up fanfiction origins, so I had, as of December 2018, so the end of last year, the top 20 fandoms, i.e. the fandoms with the most stories submitted. So not necessarily having the most reads, but this is like the topic that has
have
the
been
most
tagged,
submissions.
right?
Yes. On fanfiction.net are as follows, and these figures are rounded to nearest 1,000. Okay, cool. So, do you want to guess number one?
I'm gonna guess Harry Potter.
Harry Potter's number one. Yeah,
Yes!
Harry Potter.
I feel really proud of myself right now.
With over 800,000 stories.
That does not surprise me, because when the internet was coming out, and, like, kids my age were starting to get on Harry Potter right around the same time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people my age were frustrated with romantic relationships in that book.
Well, and I'm going to guess it all revolved around Ron, Hermione, and Harry for the most part. Of,
and
like,
Draco.
Ooh,
because a lot of people, like, I think I was a little too young.
Did they want him to fuck Harry?
Yeah, of course they did.
Okay, for sure. That's what I was thinking, too.
Yeah, of course. But, so there was, like, people that wanted Harry and Hermione to get together rather than Hermione and Ron.
So I remember being in 4th grade when somebody was reading Harry Potter. Like, I remember somebody reading Harry Potter in 4th grade. I want to say it had even come out maybe a year or so ahead of them, because we basically figured it out where my friend group, I'm class of 2009 for high school, and my friend group, we would have been 1 year younger, I think, than Harry Potter's class.
Got it. So you, like, just missed it.
Yeah, so we were basically in the same group. We were also supposed to be, like when Toy Story 3 came out, it came out and Andy's, like, a senior in high school, right?
Yeah.
We had just graduated.
I was the senior.
School.
I was the senior in high school.
Oh, okay.
Because I was 2012.
Okay. And that's when Toy Story 3 came out?
I think so.
Okay. Because I thought I was only...
It was
maybe
either...
I was a sophomore then. But I was like, oh, we're Andy's age. Oh, we're Hermione and Harry Potter's age. Like
right.
That.
Relatable.
And I remember that being also... Hermione was, like, the first person I remember hearing about from guys at school who were like... Like, they weren't saying I want to fuck Hermione because we were, 11, 12.
Right.
But they were saying, like, oh, God, Hermione, like, so hot. Like, that's who I want to date Hermione. And I'm just like, she's a fictional character. She's in a book. Like, I had never, especially as a kid, I wasn't that much of a reader. So I had never really thought of, like, having relationships with these
fictional
characters in books. Yeah, I could only picture, like, if I saw them in a movie, if I saw them on TV, I'd be like, yeah, but it wouldn't be the character.
If you had to come up with the image yourself, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and so I'm a very visual learner, apparently. Ooh. And so that's what I thought of with Harry Potter. But it makes perfect sense, though, that the internet, I mean, we took computer classes.
Same, I took typing classes.
Yes,
Yep.
So good.
Yeah, so that totally makes sense why that's the biggest
one.
Right around the same time. Now tell me what number 2 is.
Number 2 is your
Naruto!
Anime. Yeah.
Yes, that makes me so happy.
What's that about?
So, Naruto, or if you're going to say it with the correct pronunciation, I believe is Naruto. You kind of, like, trill the R a little bit.
Like that.
The Japanese language is beautiful. Is about ninjas. It's about a world where basically just picture, like, every country that exists currently in our world, but they're made up of ninjas.
Okay.
And, like, every government is run by ninjas, and they have, like,
I like this already.
Their military is ninjas. So there's, like, civilians and normal people that exist in the world, but, like, the main job is to become a ninja and then, like, protect your village.
Okay.
So this was a manga, a comic book originally, and then became an anime and was serialized in the U.S. right around the time that I was in middle school.
Okay.
So a lot of like very
This was on
nerdy...
TV too?
Yeah, it was on Cartoon Network.
Got it.
Like
got
later
it.
in the evening, right before Adult Swim came on.
Oh, of course. So it was basically like the bridge between like, you know, day cartoons and Adult Swim.
And Adult Swim, pretty much. Because,
Gotcha.
like, the show was kind of bloody, but since it was released in the U.S., they censored a lot of the blood.
Of course.
So that's how they were able to kind of, like, bridge that gap. But this show had a huge cast of characters with special powers, really emo, dark past, so middle schoolers, like, latched onto them.
I was going to say, like, you throw in the word emo, and I'm like, already you've got the entire teen following.
Yeah, so it was like,
there.
my parents are dead, or they were killed in a freak accident, like, I'm the last remaining member of my clan, and I'm gonna kill everyone, or friendship, or something.
Insert any teen girl watching, oh god, I want to fuck him and fix him.
Or any boy being like, same, I'm emo too.
Oh my god, we should go into the closet together.
Yeah, oh my god. So that show, like, sparked a huge creativity boon in me.
Okay. In terms of, doing your art, or did you actually write fanfic and read fanfic from them?
I was introduced to fanfiction through Naruto. So I was making my own stuff, and then somebody found, all right, we're going to get into some lingo. So this is old school lingo that I don't think people use anymore, but lemon.
This is the millennial lingo. So those Gen Zers out there
Sorry,
are like,
guys.
too hip for us.
This is stuff that I have seen other people on Twitter say we wish we could bring back to the fanfic community because it helped. So lemon. It's basically meant not safe for work, like a sex scene is going to be in this.
It was lemon?
It was called Lemon.
Why?
I have no idea. I wish I knew.
All things, you know what? And what's funny is I feel like I've heard lemon used before, but I feel like I've heard lemon used as like something's like a failure or a flop. Like, it's
no,
such a lemon.
I think it was like, you know how people say something spicy nowadays?
Okay.
I wonder if that was the same connotation where it was like you pucker up like, ooh.
Okay,
like
that's
shocking.
the only thing I could think of because I was like it's sour?
Yeah. So when something was lemon, it basically meant it was NSFW or like R18 or not even that. Maybe sometimes like PG-13 because, you know, these were written by also teenagers.
Right.
So sometimes they were just saying like, and then he entered her or him, and you're like, what does that even mean?
If you saw entered, like,
it's like, ooh, yeah.
Yikes.
So no fancy words, but I believe my very first fanfic I read was a lemon Naruto fanfiction where Naruto and his rival / best friend had sex.
Great.
And I remember being, shocked because I read, like, a full-on graphic sex scene that also included, like, some violence beforehand where they, like, beat each other up and then started making out.
Ooh, yeah.
And I was like,
Exactly.
I was like, I'm so conflicted, but, like, they're ninjas, so it makes sense that they would want to, like, beat each other up first. And then it was my duty to show my other nerdy friends that I had found this, and I'm pretty sure I exposed like 2 of the girls way too early. Like they did not have a good sex education before that, and they were like, "Oh my god, what is this?" And I was like, "What?"
I was
lemon.
totally the person that like in college showed any of my friends who had never watched porn. Yeah. Like I was just like, what? You've never seen it? Like, come on, we'll just turn this on, you know, like, and it was, you know, like, because it's not good. Like, the ones we would watch at least would show them. I'm like, it's not like we're all going to be getting off right here. Like,
no, it's funny for the most part.
Okay, hit me with some more terms.
So, lemon was the one that I remembered the most.
Okay.
Another one that actually has been in discussion recently is squick. 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 So...
I'm like even just trying to think about like what this
give
could
me a
possibly
guess. What do you
mean.
think it could mean?
Squick.
Yeah.
Squick. See, and I always think like I think in terms of like, you know, NSFW, like it's like letters stand for something kind of thing, but squick's a long one.
Squick's a word. It does not stand for anything.
Like squick. It's smooth and quick. It's get in, get out. I don't know.
So that sounds great, but it's not correct.
Okay.
So squick was something that you could say in the comments if you didn't like what you read.
Okay.
So it came up recently in conversation on like online communities because we've kind of lost a word that means I didn't really enjoy this. Parts of it made me uncomfortable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that no one should read it. Because a lot of times, fan fiction and writing in general sometimes explores really heavy topics that can be triggering for other people.
Which is why sometimes in stories and posts and everything, people will put in trigger
warning.
Yeah.
Right, but before trigger warning existed, or content warning, people would say, the part where so-and-so got, backed into a corner squicked me out. So it was like a verb.
Interesting. Okay.
Like, if I'm squicked, it means I'm like, ooh, I don't really, that part made me uncomfortable. So, if we're talking about a Harry Potter fan fiction, and let's say, Harry and Draco get into an argument, and Harry, hits Draco, but then says it's Draco's fault that he hit him. That's kind of heavy.
Yeah,
and the writer could be exploring that, maybe it's an abusive relationship. Sure. And, there are fan fiction that exclusively explore...
Well, and there's a kink for everyone,
right,
too,
and, sometimes
so
it's kinky, sometimes it's cathartic. I don't know why people are writing this, but someone's going to consume it. But that might make me uncomfortable. So I'll say in the comments, I'm not going to say, oh my god, I hated this, you should never write again. I'll say, you know what, violence and harassment and abusive relationships kind of squick me out.
So this is so polite though.
It really is.
So I'm just wondering, and do people in these, and I'm assuming when you say it's popping up where you're reading, are these different sites, different forums?
Yeah, mostly Twitter.
Mostly Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, so even on Twitter though, people are commenting squick, and not just being dicks about it and being
yeah, so I think I saw
fucking mean for writing this. Because I feel everything I see, especially on Twitter, because I love Twitter, but at the same time,
it can get dirty on Twitter.
Because I feel on Twitter
nasty.
More than anything, people just click, no thought or regard to
what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I remember seeing the conversation start on Tumblr before the Not Safe for Work ban, which killed that website.
Tumblr. That's how Tumblr grew. Tumblr's dead to me.
Tumblr's dead to me. I can't even look up my good pro women porn things that were on Tumblr anymore because they're gone.
Yeah. Oh,
not
God,
happy
so
about
disappointing.
Tumblr. So I remember seeing the conversation start on Tumblr because a very beloved fic writer wrote a very, very intense and upsetting exploration of an abusive relationship.
Okay.
And it was very clear, and she explicitly said, in the tags, in the description, this is not safe.
Got it.
If you are triggered by harassment, abuse, do not read this.
Yes.
People read it. They got so mad, they drove her off the internet.
God.
She said, I told you this was an exploration of this topic. It's something I've wanted to touch on for a while.
Yeah.
And she never said why, but maybe she was in an abusive relationship and she wanted to explore it. Regardless, they basically drove her off the internet. She took all her content away. She said, none of you get to read my stuff if you can't understand that. And I remember after she left, a lot of people said, I wish that we could still use Squick. I wish we could bring it back, because then people could say, instead of, I hate this and you're a bad person for writing it, how dare you, they could just say, you know what, I'm kind of squicked out by abuse.
Right.
That's it. And that just indicates, me, Abby, didn't like it. But that doesn't mean that Kelly's gonna dislike it too.
And also, what does it say when you're limiting what an artist is allowed to put out there as well?
Sure, there's limitations of things that are definitely not appropriate.
And I think you can tell, especially coming from female authors and creators
100%,
and artists, when something is malintentioned. I feel it's hard to say, but I feel majority of the time coming from women and non-binary creators that's not the purpose, because the whole reason of them creating is to show a different point of view than typically seen.
Exactly.
But no, I totally understand. That's so great. I wish we applied Squick to, anything that we're seeing online, instead of just writing mean and dirty comments and reporting people.
Bring Squick back.
Yeah, people get reported too on Facebook and Instagram and stuff for because somebody doesn't like what they post, and it's always a topic of concern when it's it comes to showing nipples and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
female presenting nipples. Tumblr,
always.
come on.
Always. But so interesting. Were there other terms? Or did you have any more? Or do you want me to continue with my list?
Just continue with the list, because I can't think of anything right now.
Okay, but those are two, Lemon and Squick. I love the whole idea of Squick. I feel not suitable for work has basically replaced lemon. Like, it's the
Pretty
same
much, yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I know.
Squick is that's so interesting to me. And
it's very unique, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to look more into that. Like, maybe we can spread it around and make other people use it.
Yeah. I'll think of some more lingo as you go down the list. Because there's genres of fanfic that have their own specific words that we can look at too.
So, I mean, a lot of these don't surprise me. I feel like the ones that surprise me are because I don't know what they are.
Sure, so, go down the list. Let's see if I know any.
In general, Harry Potter is at the top with over 800,000 stories. Naruto is next with 426,000. So, I mean, that's half the amount of Harry Potter. Then from there, we cut that in half. And number 3 with 220,000 numbers of stories is Twilight. Which, and obviously, I mean, we can just say at this point, we don't even need to talk about it in depth, but like,
no, we don't.
Obviously, Twilight not only has a large number of fan fiction stories, but it spawned 50 Shades of Grey.
Right.
And what that became.
It spawns spin-offs just by existing.
Exactly.
The
and
world,
I have another list too that's kind of like popular books that came from fan fiction.
Ooh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the books either. There actually was one on the list that I was like, oh my god, that's a romance that I know crossed my feed before and I haven't read it. So I'll get to that too. But yeah, I mean, 50 Shades of Grey is what it is. I mean, it's funny because I feel like, I've never really thought about what people in the fan fiction community think about 50 Shades of Grey. I just approach it as like what people in the romance community think of 50 Shades. So I kind of wonder about what...
I do have some insight on it.
Do you? Okay, so you might as well hit me with it before we go on.
Yeah, it'll be really brief because I don't have all the details, and I don't want to speculate and start more shenanigans.
Right, for sure.
But from what I remember... After 50 Shades of Grey came out, there was this huge backlash in fanfic writing because the woman who wrote it was originally a Twilight fic.
Right.
That she, I guess, either used material from other fics to write.
Oh, God.
Or, like, collaborated with other people. And then she published it as her own original work. And all these other writers were like, you can't do that.
Well, but
and we can't advocate for ourselves because no one's going to care if I walk up and say... But she took the theme from my Edward and Bella fan fiction on Fanfiction.
Do you have the proof? You know, and I guess you could show
transformative work,
a story.
It's a very tricky law, but like it just created this really icky taste in a lot of people's mouths because they were like, one, I don't know if this is talked about in the romance community, but a lot of people were upset because it doesn't really properly show what BDSM is like.
That's for sure.
It's a very glossed over
We've talked about that for sure. In fact, we did a BDSM story recently on this podcast where we talked about how, and I had somebody on as my guest who used to serve as a dom in the community.
Oh, fantastic.
So I mean alone was telling me like this is 50 Shades is
not only was it incorrect, but it was partially stolen work or collaborated work with other people who were usually anonymous, who now were forced to reveal themselves and say, oh, that's not hard. Okay.
That's
hard.
But
like, and she was basically like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And they couldn't really do anything. I can't remember if they sued her or not, but it did not sit well with the fanfiction community.
That's hard too, not only like having your work taken, but also being like, this is a place that I come to. And again, it could be for catharsis. It could be just to like get some creativity down. But
I'm really kinky, but no one will understand this kink, so I'm going to write about it.
You have to actually like come out and say, no, like here I am. This is me. Like this is what I've been writing. And ooh, God, that triple whammy. Oof.
Triple whammy.
But yeah,
moving on to more positive things.
There we go.
What else is in the list? So
Twilight, number 3. Number 4, which is about half the amount of Twilight, so now we're in like the 100,000s.
Got it.
Is Supernatural, the TV show.
Oh, which, yes, it is. Your girl was a huge fan of Supernatural for the longest time.
It's one that I've seen episodes of, and they're both ridiculously hot. Like,
hot.
But I could not tell you like a lot more about the show. Like, the only people that I know on the show are like the 2 main characters.
Sure, so they're brothers.
I mean, do they fuck in the fan fiction? Like
sometimes.
Okay, like.
Sometimes they do.
That would be like,
and that stuff for me is a little squicky.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel about it because they're both really hot.
Yeah.
And I know in my, like, logic brain that they're actors.
Right.
But then, like, incest is not good.
When you do fan fiction, isn't it usually about the characters and not, like, the people that play them?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So that's another topic. Do you want me to go a little bit more into detail about Supernatural before I go on to that? Okay. Or maybe this is a great way to introduce that. So,
yeah, do it.
Especially when it came to live action things where, like, Supernatural didn't have a book or anything before that. It was only a show.
This is the first one, too, on the list that we're talking about where it came in straight to TV.
Straight to TV,
there wasn't another thing for it.
Exactly. So, there's plenty of fanfic where it's Sam and Dean and the angel, Castiel. He's the guy that kind of looks like Constantine.
He's hot, too.
He's also hot. Mm-hmm. Usually, it's Dean and Cass. Okay. Because in one of the seasons, Dean goes to hell. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Oh, you know what? If you haven't seen it at this point, like...
I mean, it's ending, finally. Which is actually really sad. But anyways.
Like it was, like, ending, like, 3 other times
and
before
it never
this,
had.
though. And
until
then it
now,
didn't,
now it
so
actually
whatever.
It's upsetting. So Dean went to hell, and Cass was the angel, Castiel, who brought him out and, like, left this tattoo of his hand on his shoulder. And the minute, I know.
I can't.
It's writing itself. It's writing itself.
God.
And, like, the minute that happened, and I think the actor, Misha Collins, has this really deep voice.
Ooh, sexy name, too.
Yeah, right? Misha Collins, Jensen Ackles, Jared Padalecki, that are the actors' names.
Well, I
Great
knew Jared
names.
Padalecki coming in because he was on Gilmore Girls.
Yep.
And he was, like, such a little whiny bitch on Gilmore Girls that I'm
make
just
fun
like,
of that in the
this
show.
was such a like change of pace that I was like, good for you.
Nice job. Yeah, so I think there's a line in the very first episode that Castiel shows up where he's talking to Dean, and Dean's like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I'm the one that raised you from perdition." Oh no, wait. Gripped you tight and raised you from perdition.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding.
Like,
I'm not kidding.
They're just writing it themselves.
Yeah,
like,
so all the girls who are watching this go,
he gripped him tight.
Yeah.
He's
oh my god.
Tight grip.
Like, it got so popular in terms of fanfic that they made an episode about a supernatural convention where they wrote fanfic about the characters in the world.
I love that.
Like, it got really meta, and I was like, it's me.
Well, and at that point, you know that, like, the writers and everyone behind the series
are going onto these websites and looking at these.
Yeah, and I mean, I bet they're just, like, also, like, creating storylines and, like, character interactions that they know are going to lead to fanfic fodder. Like,
yeah.
for sure.
Just beautiful fodder.
That's just brilliant, too.
And then the actors are so hot that people write fanfic about the actors fucking.
Okay. See, so that I can get on board with.
That's
fine.
That's like the, like, that's where I was introduced to real person fiction, which is a term that I've seen on Archives of Our Own.
And I asked you about this one, I think when I asked you to do the podcast,
yes, you did,
I asked you, okay, like, the real person fiction, is that, like, my first instinct was like, oh, okay, that's about, like, me reading something and saying, this is about me and this actor.
Right. That's another thing entirely.
Right. You told me, like, no, that is something, but, like, what I'm talking about is, go for it.
So, real person fiction is actors, celebrities, sports players, like athletes.
Okay.
Sports players is a word. Fucking. Or having romantic relationships. With each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, the supernatural actors were very popular. It was always like Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki, like, start to realize while they're on set that maybe their feelings for each other.
So that is where I could see. That's what I could see turning into a romance novel. Like, that right there is exactly...
It's a great premise.
And that's what romance is, like, there's so many workplace romances, there's so many second chance romances where it's like they were together and they broke up and now they're gonna make it work, you know what I mean? So that makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the other really popular one at the time was... the Sherlock actors. So Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman.
Ooh.
Like, and sometimes they weren't even actors. It was just them, so you knew what they looked like, but it was like, he was a barista. And the other guy was just like his customer.
Like Benedict Cumberbatch, the barista?
Yeah.
Do you say barista? I say barista.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's like Los Feliz, Los Fellas.
Fellas?
Stop it.
Fellas.
It's Feliz Navidad, therefore it's Los Feliz. This is only for LA listeners,
or
obviously.
Files. I've heard someone say Files before.
Yeah,
and I was
they're
like,
wrong.
Ooh, no.
Get over it.
Yeah.
I want to read about Benedict Cumberbatch, the barista.
I bet you can find it. Yeah, so that was the actor portion. Then we start to get into kind of interesting territory with athletes.
Okay, because, like, for that, I'm like, okay, is it... Like, put it this way. I'm a big Golden State Warriors fan, right?
Sure.
They're about to go into their 5th NBA Finals.
Which is amazing.
I'm excited. I'm sure the rest of the country and world probably is
doesn't
bored out of
care,
their minds.
yeah.
They're like, oh my god, them again. And I'm like thinking, you know what? That's how the Lakers were like in like the 90s. Like,
Let the Celtics win for once. Why won't you?
Yeah, whatever.
I'm a mask girl. Don't blame me.
That's fine. It's well, it used to be that the Yankees would always win. It used to be that the Lakers would always win.
Hell yeah, we do.
So I'm like, a Bay Area team is actually doing something. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But so like to me, I would think, okay, if you're a Warriors fan and a sports fan, like you're gonna fanfic like a couple guys from the Warriors. Like there's like all these. So
yeah.
Is it mostly people being like, oh, it's like these guys like Kobe and Shaq? You know, like they play together. It's gonna be them, you know, it's Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
Yeah, so it's like...
Okay.
To me, sports, especially in the U.S., is a theatrics performance. It's a performance just as much as it is a competition. Yeah. So a lot of times when you're watching, it's almost like watching a TV show, like a drama. So like there's relationships and rivalries, and like they're all dudes that are pretty in shape and good looking.
Yeah.
Or if you watch women's sports, they're very, very muscular
it's very
women.
Telenovela. Like,
and it's like, it's very dramatic, so I think it really like pumps people up. And you start to think like, oh my god, like, are they in love? Like, they care so much about each other. Or, like, they hate each other so much. What if they, like, hate sex? Wow.
Oh my
god. I'm
gonna
in
write the locker room, obviously, right?
Obviously.
Okay.
Like, towel around their neck.
In the
like,
showers.
maybe they come out of the shower.
Yeah.
So, my introduction to the athlete real person fiction was hockey.
Because you're a hockey fan.
Because I'm a hockey fan. And going to school in Chicago, right around the time that the Blackhawks were, like, bonkers good, a lot of people really liked Patrick Kane with Jonathan Taves.
Don't know who either of these people are.
They're
do they play for the Blackhawks?
They do play for the Blackhawks.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Patrick Kane has had some weird allegations against him, so I'm not a huge
that's
fan.
Unfortunate.
But before those allegations came out, they were, I believe, drafted either one after the other or together. So they came to the team together.
That's cute.
And they brought it to its glory together.
Okay.
Taves is Canadian. Kane is American, so when they play in Worlds or Nationals, they're on opposite teams. So they have to play.
This is such a romance. Yeah, this is like set up
It writes
perfectly.
itself. So like athletes, celebrities, even YouTubers are getting fanfic written about them.
That's so funny, but I mean, look at the world we live in. Like we were just talking about before we started how Abby and I, both of our jobs revolve heavily around memes and TikTok and YouTube. Like these are huge industries.
Absolutely.
I mean, it only makes sense. You know what I have to say, like, especially because lately on YouTube, the big drama last week that I had to write about was the whole thing with James Charles and
my God, don't get me started.
Tatiana, whatever her face is, and
Tati Westbrook, you mean?
Yes. Oh my gosh, you know her.
Girl, I've been keeping up because I work in YouTube, so I have to keep up.
Exactly. And to be fair, I knew who James Charles was before all this went down. I had no idea who this other girl was. And but no, I mean, like, so I could see there's gotta be like the fanfic about them making up and like being together. Like it has to be.
Well, if there is, it's gonna cause some stir because James Charles is super gay.
Oh God.
So I would be squicked by that.
Would be squicked by that.
I would be squicked by that. But some people might find it hot.
That's interesting. So that would squick you because he is gay.
Right.
And if he was straight in a fanfic, that would be weird to you?
I guess it's because he's part of a community that's marginalized.
Okay.
If you take away that part of his identity, I feel like it's unfair. Whereas cis people, they don't have to worry about their identity getting taken away because they are the norm.
Yeah.
So for someone to write them identifying as a different sexuality, to me, doesn't squick me out just because it's not like something being stolen from them.
I feel like that's something we need to talk about too,
Sure, absolutely.
I think a huge part of fan fiction, at least from my understanding of it, is that a lot of my friends who read it specifically for the romance that they wish had been told. And that
absolutely.
A lot of those romances are queer romances. That it's characters that are typically on the show portrayed as straight.
Right.
Or show, book, whatever it is.
Whatever, yep.
And that this is them kind of having that queer
moment. That moment of
everyone
representation that they thought they were going to get.
Yeah, that they expected them to have, that it seemed like they were supposed to have. And I'm sure, and I know that there's plenty of, heterosexual fan fiction as well. You know, obviously. And I'm sure it's also between characters that actually do get together in shows and books, but it's just not the way people wanted
fanfiction is normally you're writing it because it didn't happen or you wanted it to happen.
Right. Like, I can tell you, I haven't read a lot of fanfiction, and I come from the point of view where a lot of the fanfiction I've read is very, like, joke-oriented fanfiction,
like
where it's like, this is, like, intentionally awful kind of thing.
There are some of those.
And that's kind of, like, where a fanfiction always fell on my scale. I know that there's good fanfiction out there, and I know that there's long fanfiction and
16 chapters of slow burn.
And that's romance. That's exactly what I signed up for when I picked up a book. And so, but there was one time I read a book where I was like, I feel cheated because I wanted...
You thought that thing was going to happen.
I wanted this scene, and it was when I was reading the fucking, what are they called? The Divergent book series.
Oh.
And that you never had... And you know what it might be is because I had already started reading romance at this point when I read the Divergent series, but you never had the sex scene between the main characters. And I went online and I typed in something like, where is the sex scene, or do these characters ever have sex? Like, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And so, but I found, like, it, like, all led to, like, this one person who had written, like, the be-all, end-all sex scene that should have happened between these characters.
And there it was, and you were like,
it was really good. And it was a really good scene. And so that's, like, when I think of fanfiction and, like, it actually being really good and, like, you know, serving its purpose to otherwise satisfy you when you felt unsatisfied or cheated.
Yeah, whenever you felt cheated, you go to fanfiction.net. You go to Archive of Our Own and you go, why didn't Spock and Kirk make out? Why didn't Castiel, who said he would die for Dean, also then kiss Dean?
And he gripped him tight.
And raised him from perdition. Damn. Where is my makeout scene? I'm going to write it myself.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, there
what
you
else
go.
am I going to do?
So there's, that's for sure. So tell me about, a lot of the fan fiction you read, I mean, do you gravitate more towards the queer fan fiction? Or?
Usually, yeah. Okay. I definitely, like with Harry Potter, I think I err towards the heterosexual relationships a little bit more because those were the ones that were pushed. And it's a little bit harder, at least for me, with books, to see a queer romance. Because you're not getting the interaction. A lot of it is like the eye contact or like the proximity.
But when you see people on screen or even in a graphic novel, it's not the same. If you see people on screen, those are real live human beings.
Yeah, or like if it's an animated cartoon.
Yeah,
they're still like in the same space together.
Exactly.
So that one I feel like is a little bit easier for me to say,
you can insert yourself into that
space.
And
say, I think those two might have a little something going on. Whereas like Draco and Harry only ever hated each other except for the last book where like he kind of pitied Draco to a certain degree, but like they were written exclusively as hating each other. And I read it at a time where I didn't think that was sexy. I was like, ew, Draco,
I
gross.
can see too though if you watch the movie, like if you saw the movie Harry Potter and you didn't read the books or something, I could see where you're like, oh yeah. But I could also see where if you read the books and then you saw the movie, that you were like, ew, that is not how I pictured that guy.
Exactly,
like, the guy who played Draco was, like, so slimy to me that I was like, I don't want to picture anybody fucking this guy.
Yeah, no,
like,
nasty.
Yeah. I mean, he looks great in real life, you know, but I mean, let's all be honest. Everyone probably by the last movie was, like, writing about Neville Longbottom.
I hope so.
Bottom.
Long bottom.
Talk about a glow up, man. Oof, that guy.
I'd climb him like a tree.
Yes.
Just climb that man.
Long bottom.
Yes. So yeah, I would say I tend to veer towards the queer romances a little bit more because the media that I consume, especially the anime and manga that I read on the Japanese side of the media, like male friendships are usually a really big part of the genres that I read. Okay. So like shonen is a genre in anime and manga that's like action, really geared towards like boys, like I'm in a giant robot and I'm like fighting for my friends, but like it's a cast of mostly all guys. Okay. So if me, a girl, is watching that, I'm like, oh, where's the romance? So I only have dudes to look at. So I'm like, well, I guess they have to all just like be bi or gay and just are in love with each other.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, well,
if there's nobody else, like this is who I've got at some point, y'all are gonna fuck. Like it's gonna happen,
and it usually doesn't, but that's another story for another day. Yeah.
Okay, let me give you a few more on the
list.
list.
Just rapid fire.
So I don't know the next two. We've got Hetalia Axis Powers.
No way.
And then Inuyasha.
Okay, Hetalia, those are, I know both of them. They're both anime.
They're both around the same count, too, like around 120,000 stories.
That is so fascinating.
Then, this one surprised me, but I also stopped watching it very early on. Glee.
Huh.
That one's interesting to me because it does have a fandom. Like, I mean, it does have a huge fandom. I was a fan for the first year and a half, and then they lost me. But
same.
But like a lot of the everything else on the list that I'm looking at is very science fiction, mystery, like
fantasy.
Like it makes sense to me that there's a fandom. I guess Glee, I also kind of wonder. I guess if it was the characters or the actors, because I just found so many of them unlikable at that show, and like it was one of the first shows I watched where they were showing people in high school that are gay, that are disabled, that you know are different ethnicities. There's teen pregnancy. I mean, there are
tons of topics.
They really showed so many that I'm like, okay, I'm really curious about who you wanted to get together then that wasn't getting together.
I'd be curious to see who they were writing, or were they writing about the couples that were together?
Right.
So
okay. So then we go into Pokemon.
Yeah.
Pokemon, again, also makes me wonder, because I'm, like, wondering if people are wanting these, like, creatures, the Pokemon themselves.
That's
like,
a different website.
Be getting together.
That's a different website.
That's what I don't need on my radar. Yeah.
So if I had to take a guess, a lot of people thought that Ash Ketchum and Misty were gonna get together.
Okay.
Even little cartoon baby me.
Okay. Well, because it was like the leading male and the leading female.
Yeah. But then if you kept watching Pokemon after that, Misty does leave.
Okay.
But another girl takes her place.
Well, of course.
So there's all these girls, and all of them kind of like have a thing for Ash. So you can write about, or maybe people are writing about Ash and Brock. I don't know. Or maybe it's right about Team Rocket. Maybe it's about Jesse and James having a honeymoon wedding or something.
Could be.
I hope it's not about the Pokemon.
I hope it's not. And I hope it's not about like Ash and the Pokemon. Like
That's quick. That's for another website.
Yeah, not
and
for
another
me.
Topic for another day.
This is another anime for you.
Okay.
I don't know. You'll probably know Bleach.
Bleach was about like supernatural World of the Dead fighting with swords.
Okay. Fine.
Easiest way I can describe it. Do you want me to quickly describe the other two anime that were up top?
No, it's
we'll
fine.
Just skip them.
They're anime. There's fandoms.
It's great.
Abby reads them.
I read them. I know them.
There you go.
That's all that matters.
Percy Jackson and the Olympians. I actually know a lot about that one because I did read the books. Yeah, I don't know how many there were. I must have read at least 3. Like I feel like I read at least 3. My mom teaches 6th grade. And they do ancient Greeks and Romans and mythology. So she was actually the one that introduced me to the books. And then the movie came out, and I think they made more movies. And
I think they made one more or two.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I like mythology, so I was like, but again, I'm kind of like wondering, like, there's all the teens in it, right? But then I'm like, okay, are people also like thinking about the gods and goddesses too? But they already like fucked all the time in mythology. Like, which one of them
about the teens
didn't get together?
Right,
you know?
Right.
Then we go into, which I know has a big fandom. I'm not part of it, but I get it. Doctor Who.
Yes. So I also don't get it, but I understand it.
I wonder if, like, people... Because they have different doctors and, like, the different, like...
Companions.
I was going to call them assistants. Shame on me.
Shame on you.
So I wonder if it's, like, a combination... I could see where you would have the combination of, like, this doctor and this doctor and this doctor and this companion.
Like, what happens then? I'm sure a lot of that is also, there was one doctor who actually did fall in love with one of his companions, but then they were like forced to be separated forever and never to see again.
I'm surprised that only happened once.
I hope it didn't happen more than once, because it was really upsetting. But I'm sure people wrote fic about, like, what if they were never separated? What if they got to live out their lives together? What if they were separated, but maybe, like, 5,000 years later they get back together? Yeah. Oh my god, crazy.
Well, I could see where people would watch and like the Doctor in one season, but not the companion.
And want
they
the
like
companion
the
from
companion
another
in
season.
a different one. Yeah, like, what if these two were together?
Yeah.
I guess that also, before I continue the list, that would bring up the question I have of, is fanfiction always a romantic sexual thing? Like, or do people write fan fictions? Like, if somebody was going to write a Doctor Who and say, I just wish this doctor had had this companion and this is the story that they would have had. Not necessarily like a sexual thing, but because I associate it with a sexual thing.
I would say majority sexual and romantic, but there are stories that is not the point.
Okay.
And it is more about exploring, you know, what if Dean hadn't gone to hell?
Okay.
And they continued their... Would he have met Cass in a different way? Or, like, what would have happened instead? Like, alternate universes or of the like. So it doesn't always have to be about the sexual romantic relationships of characters. Sometimes it's just exploring
that world
in a new way.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah,
Got it. Okay, so finishing off the list, we've got Kingdom Hearts.
Nice.
I remember Kingdom Hearts. Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, if you got Pokemon, you gotta have Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes, get those angry giant-haired card boys together.
Oh, God. Here's another anime. I'm not familiar with this one, though. Fairy Tail, but it's like tail,
Oh, no, I hate that. Fairy Tail is made by one of the guys that made one of the original really popular anime that is still ongoing. Same guy, so it's like a similar vein.
Well, now we're in the 60,000 number of stories range. So I mean, it's much lower in the grand scheme of things.
All the others.
But
and this is just the list for fanfiction.net, right?
Yeah, this is if people are just for some reason starting to listen this far into the episode, these are the top 20 fandoms on fanfiction.net as of December 2018.
Okay. So, I would be very curious to see what Archives of Our Own has as the top 20.
Well, you know what? I'd be curious to see what's changed, like if it's changed within, 5-ish months since then, especially with the latest Marvel installments. Like, I would almost expect...
There was tons of Avengers fanfiction when the first couple...
I've got a few for us to discuss.
Oh, yes. Can't wait.
But that surprised me because that's not on the top 20. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, like, everything on this list predates the Marvel movies.
Right.
Not the comics,
so
obviously.
They just cumulatively are having more.
Yeah, like, I could see where it would have more maybe in a few years.
Right.
But, let's see, we got Fairy Tail. Then we go into Sherlock, the TV show Sherlock. So there you go.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Cool.
That doesn't shock me at all. In fact, I think I've actually read some.
I better see some dwarf and elf porn there.
Yeah, of course, right?
Doi.
Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, that's cute.
Keeping up with the, the theme here.
Yep.
Once Upon a Time, the TV show.
Really?
I can say I did watch the first couple seasons of Once Upon a Time, and there are a lot of characters that you could very easily ship on that show. Like,
there you go.
I for sure had my pairs where I was like, oh my god, these two better fuck. Like, I was, if the main girl and Captain Hook did not get together, there was going to be hell to pay.
There was going to be hell to pay.
And I think they did at some point.
But when they weren't getting together, people were probably writing fics and saying, why isn't this happening now?
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Finishing off the list, one of them I actually have an excerpt to share for, and then the other one, these actually two tied for... This is so funny that these two tied too, because one of them, they're both prolific, but like one of them is one of the biggest movie franchises of all time, and the other one is a TV show from the 90s. So like, tying in the number 19 and 20 spot are Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Of course.
And Star Wars.
I love it. I love it.
That's incredible.
That's great.
So Star Trek, not on the list. Interesting. But doesn't, I want to say, like, maybe because it hasn't been as recent. Like, there's obviously the Star Trek movies, but, like, the shows, while they kicked off the fan fiction.
Right. They're not necessarily staying in place. Like, I was doing some research before we did the episode. I was looking at some of my favorite bookmarked fics that I had. Okay. And a lot of the Star Trek ones that I liked were published in like 2013, 2012. Okay. So because there hasn't been any new content that's really taken off, I wonder if that harmed the total body count of fics, you know?
Sure.
Like we said, it kickstarted the movement.
Yeah.
But because it was so long ago, maybe everything's been explored. And like maybe those people moved on. I know a lot of those people probably got hooked on Supernatural and then just started writing that.
Right.
Or so that doesn't surprise me.
Right. Okay.
It's sad, but it doesn't surprise me.
So before we dive into like some examples that we have, because I was like, well, we can't talk about fanfiction
without looking
and
at
not share like some titles, maybe a couple excerpts. I want to tell you right now that our Patreon supporters, you better believe you got some bonus content coming your way.
Oh, you better read these, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but we'll be sure to share some in this episode as well, because everybody deserves to have a little saucy fanfiction.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that I have a couple podcasts to recommend as well that dabble in fanfiction.
Cool.
So there's one that I discovered a few months back that I have been hooked on ever since, mostly because the episodes are super short and quick. Like they're usually like 30-minute episodes.
Oh, nice.
And that's exactly what I was looking for when I found it. And I didn't even really know what I was signing up for. I was caught on the title, which is called And Then They Fucked. And
amazing.
That is the name of the podcast, And Then They Fucked. And I was like, well, gotta listen to that, you know. And it turned out to be that the hosts discuss fanfiction, and they read short fanfiction stories, insert their hilarious commentary. I'm pretty sure all of the hosts are from the UK, so as an American, I appreciate some UK accents added in. Like, it just adds a little bit of flavor for me. So highly recommend. And then one of our Patreon supporters, Catherine, also recommended a podcast called Not Now, I'm Reading. And they talk about in every episode, as part of their What Have We Read Lately roundup, they talk about fanfiction. So thank you, Catherine, for recommending that.
Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah, and I haven't listened to it yet, but I do want to check it out because, like I told you, this is a whole new world to me. Like I am primed and ready to know more.
Good.
So
it's a whole wild, wet world out there, and I want you to be a part of it, and maybe write some of your own.
Yes, I know.
I write my own.
I'm like, okay, so tell me one of the ones you've written. Like,
yeah, sure.
Give me like kind of the synopsis and what show or book it's from, and tell me like what happens.
I wrote one about Naruto when I was younger.
Okay.
It was on DeviantArt of all places. I posted it to DeviantArt.
Oh, okay. I remember this site. It's a fan fiction site?
It's an art website.
But
you can post text posts.
Okay.
So people would post sometimes like short novels.
Like Tumblr.
Yeah, basically. It was before Tumblr, so it was like pre-Tumblr time.
Got it.
And then Tumblr happened, and, you know, that's history. So I wrote a Naruto fan fiction about like a post-apocalyptic world where everybody lived in these like junkyards and everybody was part robot. And Naruto lives by himself because he's like, in the original series, he has this demon inside of him that gives him superpowers. So that equivalent was that like he was like an old assassin robot that had been deprogrammed or something, but like everybody was still afraid of him.
Got it.
And his rival, Sasuke, was new to the junkyard and was like fascinated with him. And I think they ended up having sex, but I wrote it at a time when I didn't quite know how sex, especially gay sex, worked.
Right.
So I kind of wrote it in that very like, and then he went into him. And like, it's very vague and like, it hurt, but then it was good.
They did it.
They
so did it.
So I remember writing that, and it got a lot of those like, oh my god, this is so good comments of like everybody nerding out and not quite knowing what they were reading but loving it anyways. Because I did write some hockey fic, but
perfect.
I won't go into it because it's vaguely embarrassing.
I don't know.
All right, fine. Do you want me to tell you the description of the one I wrote? It was a gift for a friend because she was like, I really want these two hockey players. You come up with whatever you want. It's for my birthday.
Perfect.
I wrote about one hockey player coming into the locker room and helicoptering his dick.
Yes!
And it was funny.
Oh my god. Can I just tell you too, because my roommate and I discussed dick helicoptering.
No way.
Like all the time. Well, because we love listening to and watching the videos for the dick in the box.
It's my dick in the box.
Yeah, but you know, they do like the three videos. There's like, it's dick in the box, mother lover, and then the golden rule, which is like the 3-way song with
that's
Lady
right.
Gaga.
Yeah.
And so in the 3-way one, they're like, how to impress a chick, helicopter dick, helicopter dick, and they just like start doing it, and we always talk about it. We're like, you know, I feel like I've never had a guy helicopter dick for me, first of all, but I feel like if you have a penis, how could you not play with it?
Right? Why wouldn't you just try it?
But then again, I feel like men generally think that people with breasts kind of just like grab them all day long, and I'm like, oh god, no, like I couldn't care less.
But if
like,
I had a penis,
I'd play with that. But I mean again, I don't,
that
and I want to like swirl it around.
Yeah,
but,
tricks.
And I'm all for a locker room sex scene.
Yeah. So it was like he
it.
helicopters his dick, and then the other hockey player actually gets a little turned on.
Yes.
And like catches him outside his car later, and is like, hey, you want to come back to my place? And then I like had it fade to black. So it was purely comedy with a little bit of sexy at the end for like maybe they fucked, but you don't know. And she was like,
somebody else has to pick it up.
Somebody can write the next chapter. Exactly.
Do people do that?
Sometimes,
like, pick up when people leave off?
Yeah, so there is like this common meme where you'll be like, oh man, I really loved that fic that I read in 2012. But it has 16 chapters, and then the writer disappeared and never finished it, and it ended on a cliffhanger.
God.
So, like,
Idiot.
there's many times where there's fics that never get finished, and sometimes the author says, you know what, I don't have the energy to finish this. If anybody wants to write their own ending, go ahead. Or sometimes people just do it themselves, and then the author gets upset.
That's kind of great, too. I mean, it's almost like a writing assignment you would expect to, like, get in school, where it's like, here's the entire story. Yeah. Now, everybody, for your assignment, you're going to write the last chapter.
Right,
like, because everyone's probably going to write a different ending.
Yeah,
like,
so it's fanfiction of fanfiction almost. And
fanfiction of fanfiction, yes.
There you go.
I love that.
And then sometimes Archives of Our Own lets you collaborate, so it can be you writing with somebody else.
Okay.
So you publish it together.
Okay.
And it has both of your names on it, so you can do it that way too.
Let me ask you, you tell me which one you want first.
Okay.
I'll read you 3 titles of articles to share, and I'll be sure to share these articles on our social media too, so people can enjoy them for their own viewing pleasure.
Great.
We've got 10 Hallmark Christmas movies that are actually just gay fan fiction.
Excellent.
That's option 1. Option 2 is which Avengers are having the most gay sex according to fan fiction.
Ooh, that one sounds right up my alley.
Or 15 Game of Thrones fan fiction stories that will help you achieve closure.
Let's go with the Avengers one because it's a little less controversial. Okay. It's not going to make me have an aneurysm like the Game of Thrones one is, because then I'm going to go off on a tangent about Dany.
Well, and to be fair, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I mean, I've heard so many of my favorite podcasts talk about it, and I'm all for listening to it. Like, I feel like I can't cover anything that hasn't been covered.
I've talked about it enough.
So
let's do the Avengers. I want to know who's having the most sex.
Yeah,
Tell
I do
me.
too. I do too. Before we continue with the raunchiest bits of our fan fiction episode, let me take a few seconds to tell you about my favorite new podcast listening app, Podcoin. Podcoin is the app that pays you to listen to this podcast and all your other favorites. Just get the Podcoin app on iPhone or Android. It's free, super easy to use, and you can use the Podcoins you earn to claim gift cards or donate to charity. Check out the Podcoin app and use the invite code BoobsNoobs to earn 300 Podcoins just for signing up. And now, back to the boobylicious content. So, okay, if you were to think of the Avengers group,
who would I think?
Who would be your like top picks of the Avengers that are having the most gay sex?
Okay, so definitely Captain America and Iron Man.
Okay, that's number 2 on the list is Steve Rogers and Tony Stark.
Cool. I would also think that Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes.
I don't know if these are in a particular order, but that one's number 1, and that to me, that is like the standout. Like, I'm like,
the pinnacle.
That has to be. Like, there has to be. And they say that what's the site that you were reading from?
Archive of Our Own?
Okay, is there a site called AO3?
It's the same thing.
That's it.
Of
okay.
Our Own 3 O's.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, so that's that. So on that site, Archive of Our Own. Mm-hmm. Oh, I get it, because there's... Okay.
3 O's, yeah.
3 O's. That's
yeah.
I'm like big O's, 3 of them. So on sometimes. Archive of Their Own, there are over 37,000 Steve and Bucky stories.
They deserve to fuck, and I don't know why they didn't.
I mean, Duh. Like, and it says, let's see, many take place in canon, imagining Steve and Bucky falling in love before the war and finding each other again in the present post superpowers. The most pressing question of this ship is, who is the bottom? And this person says, my money's on Cap.
Now, I like that, and I would agree, because you'd think that Cap would be the top.
Right.
Because he's, like, so strong. But I think that guy wants to get knocked around a little bit. Don't you think?
He's, like, you know, the big personality that has to work all the time and then, like, you know, needs to get dominated a little bit.
And, like, he didn't always used to be this buffed out guy. He used to be, like, a scrawny little kid.
Yeah,
he probably just wants someone to hug him.
This is, by the way, an article from out.com.
Excellent.
O-U-T, out. We've got Steve Rogers, Bucky Barnes, Steve Rogers, Tony Stark.
Cool.
Then we get into this one, it's not what I would have thought of, but Hawkeye and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Agent Coulson, I think. Coulson.
What?
And
I'm sorry.
I just feel like they weren't on screen enough together to, like, warrant it, but there's apparently 9,600 works on Archive of Their Own.
And that is why fanfiction exists, because maybe they have one interaction and everybody goes, like, can you imagine the possibilities? More. Yeah, and they just go off on their own and they just write it.
Okay, this one, these are two of my personal favorite characters.
Dope.
But again, I never really pictured them together, and it's Loki and Tony Stark.
Interesting.
With over 7,000 stories.
Oh, I mean, they did have that kind of, like, flirty little banter in the first season.
Yeah, super snarky. They're both super sarcastic.
Both snarky, both mischievous, both actually have huge hearts that they don't want to admit about.
Yeah. This one is a little squicky for me personally, is Peter Parker Tony Stark.
Yeah, that age gap, not a fan.
When they kind of describe it as the, like, daddy twink energy.
Got it. And you know what? Lots of people are into that. So I can see why people would write about it.
For sure.
I see some incest on there. Was that Loki and
Thor? Yep. That's the last one on the list.
And a lot of people love to argue and say, they're gods. The gods fuck each other all the time. And I go, all right, I guess.
A lot of, you know, it's like, oh, but they're related. He's technically his adoptive brother.
Right, so they're
like,
not technically
related. But that they have over 6,000 stories. So
get it on, you Norse gods. You.
Ooh, this one does say fanfiction writers sure do love having them call each other brother while they bone.
Oh, cringe!
Take it, brother. That's
brother.
a no.
That's a little bit. That's a little squicky for me. A little squicky. Now I'm surprised. Do you know when that article came out?
Let's see. I want to say
out.
It was a more recent one, just because they mentioned Endgame.
Okay.
Yeah, this came out the day that Avengers Endgame hit theaters.
Oh,
so
really?
Like a month ago.
Okay, well maybe it just hasn't had enough time yet. But after Thor Ragnarok came out, I saw a couple people getting into Thor and Bruce Banner.
Okay.
Because they had they had a little bit of a bromance going on in Thor Ragnarok.
And they spent so much time together.
And there were some, like, apparently deleted scenes on the DVD that showed them being, like, way more touchy-feely with each other.
Well,
so I was starting to see
not in the top 5.
Well, I'm going to have to remedy that.
And this is, by the way, these are all from Archive of Our Own, and there are currently, as of the time this was released, I'm sure there's been plenty more since Endgame came out.
Absolutely.
There were, at this time, 269,849 works in the MCU tag, most of which center on queer relationships between male characters. Yeah.
Because there's barely any female characters to begin with.
I'll be sure to share the 10 Hallmark Christmas movies that are actually just gay fan fiction.
That sounds hilarious.
It's not as, it's not as specific. Like, if you're a big fan fiction reader, maybe this will make sense to you, because it's a lot of, like, this movie from Hallmark, and then these are the stories it rips off.
Got it.
But, I mean, I don't know these stories, so I'm not going to be able to, like, add anything exciting to it.
Sure.
So we'll leave that. And then the only other one was, what was the other one? Oh, the Game of Thrones. Oh, you know, it's...
no, thank you.
I mean, everybody fucks everybody on it anyway. I'm just like...
Oh, you want a term? I just was looking at some of the tags on the things I'm looking at.
Yeah, you got another word?
You know Alpha and Omega? You know that?
Say again?
Alpha and Omega?
I mean, is it like he's an alpha kind of thing? Like somebody's an alpha?
Yeah,
Dom?
but like it's like very, very, very like sex related. So Alpha Omega fan fiction.
As opposed to like Alpha Beta, because I'm used to like Alpha Beta kind of thing.
Well, it's part of it.
Okay.
So like most people call it like the ABO universe, Alpha Beta Omega.
Okay.
It is literally a universe that has been like widely accepted in fan fiction exploration where males can get pregnant. And
hold on, I'm gonna need to digest that for a hot second.
Getting pregnant,
3, okay,
you do not have to have a vagina to get pregnant.
Okay, no uterus.
No uterus.
Okay.
Well, maybe a uterus.
I guess you do have a uterus. If that's
the
where it's
rules
like
are very
growing.
bendy, but basically it just means that like it's people that kind of want to have werewolf like sex, but they don't necessarily want them to turn into werewolves. They just want them to act like they're animals. So, like, growling, or, like, having claws, or, like, biting claim marks on someone.
I mean, I've read plenty of paranormal romance. And I got that.
So, it's like, a very widely accepted realm that you can put your characters into. So, like...
Why do they need to get pregnant?
I don't know, because it's hot to some people, I guess. Or, like...
See, and this is just indicative of, like, where I'm at in my life, is because I'm like... That would be the least fucking sexy thing to come out of this story is, oh yeah, they do it here.
Wait to get
comes
hot.
all
It's
over,
crazy.
And then guess what?
He has a baby. Yeah. So I think the draw that I've noticed in the fics I've read that have been ABO is like, since it's about males that can get pregnant, sometimes it's like being an omega means you're very fertile in the universe.
Okay.
And if you're an alpha, you can be a girl or a boy and be an alpha. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to your penis.
So like if you're an alpha female, you could impregnate an omega male?
In some of them, again, the rules are kind of whatever you make of them, but a lot of times it's like there's a male who has not, you like present at a certain age which one you are. So a male presenting as an omega is like a rarity. It's rare for males to be omegas. So then it's this like, all the alphas want him, and he's like, why is this happening to me? But then also he's like, I really want to get fucked because it's in my omega nature to want to get fucked. And alphas are like, I just want to have sex with everything because I'm an alpha and I can't control myself. So it's like lots of raunchy, like crazy
kind of
sex.
Like the whole like draw of like virgin blood.
Pretty
kind
much,
of thing of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, she's a virgin. I mean, it's usually a woman, but it's like she's a virgin.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Wow, I must have her. Yeah,
yes.
And like, there's always something about like the omegas smell really good. So like when they're quote unquote in heat, all the alphas can smell them and try to come after them. So it's like it's this whole thing, and I am not ashamed to say I have definitely enjoyed an alpha, beta, omega fic or two. Because
whatever.
I'm
curious. Like, I'm curious about it for sure. Like, it's something that I'm like, I think I need to read it to, like, fully understand. Well, you read it, you don't fully understand. I mean, it's...
Because every writer interprets the rules of the universe a little bit differently. You know you have to have alphas and omegas, and sometimes betas. Betas basically just mean, like, their hormones are average. They're not like super into having sex or super into getting. So they're
like the quote unquote
normal. Yeah.
Okay.
They can still have sex and maybe also get pregnant, but they're not like I need to get fucked versus I want to fuck all the time.
Right.
They're just kind of like I exist and I don't get insanely horny all the time for no reason.
I'm here
too. And sometimes people write about the betas. They'll write one of their favorite characters as a beta who wishes that they're in love with an alpha, but the alpha doesn't want them.
This is probably in some werewolf romance too. I paranormal romance in terms of like vampires, werewolves, like otherworldly being, like that's not my favorite genre of romance. So I don't typically read that. I do tend to like in that vein. I like alien romance. Like I like things in like different worlds and different planets and stuff.
Got it.
So that's like in terms of sci-fi and fantasy romance. That's kind of where I gravitate.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if there's probably people listening who are paranormal romance readers that are like, oh yeah, of course, Alpha Omega, and I'm like, oh shit, like
I didn't even notice
in the fucking dark, you know.
So there's one that I was just looking at.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Okay. Let's see. This looks like it could be very Alpha Omega.
Ooh, yes.
This article comes from women.com. And this was only published like 4 days ago. And this is published fan fiction books. So 5 well-known books that began as fan fiction. And we're not even counting 50 Shades of Grey because that's
I want to hear. Yeah.
This one is called Point Pleasant by Jen Archer Wood.
Okay.
It's like, I mean, if you look at the photo they've included, it's got like a gargoyle with wings or like a flying monkey or something.
Very nice.
It used to be a supernatural fanfic. Okay. Let's see. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was an idyllic small town to grow up in, though an otherworldly encounter at a young age changed Ben Wiseheart's. Ben Wiseheart.
As opposed to, like, Dean Winchester, I'm assuming.
Yes. Ben Wiseheart's life forever. It even put him on track for becoming a best-selling horror writer when he got older. Ben left Point Pleasant 13 years ago and has returned after the creature that caused all his childhood nightmares has reemerged. Oh, okay. This is the one that I have heard of and I haven't read. And it's Alice Clayton's book called Wallbanger.
Nice.
And I mean, that was the whole reason I, like, noticed it, when I was like, oh my god, this book is called Wallbanger. Like, I need to read this. But it says that this is the first novel in the series, and it's the Cocktail series by Alice Clayton, was a Twilight fanfiction. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an erotic romance about a woman named Caroline Reynolds. What? Reynolds? What's up, girl?
Hey.
Between a thriving design career, great friends, her cat, and a new apartment, her life is great. Well, except for one thing, she really needs to get off. Oh, okay.
Relatable.
No, now this is, I do remember this now. Too bad her new neighbor is having loud wall-banging sex to the point that she's actually losing sleep over it. Fed up and sexually frustrated, Caroline heads to Simon Parker's door, and well, that's when the sexual tension really begins to ramp up. Yeah, I do remember reading that, and I was like, that's a cute setup to a story. Is like, you know, the next door neighbor that's like always having sex, and you're not.
Like, will you stop it? Oh, hello.
Yeah. This one is called Rewriting the Ending by H.P. Toon, and just from the cover, it's got like a backpack and a suitcase. Like, I was immediately thinking it was like Wild. Like, wasn't that the book that they made into a movie with Reese Witherspoon?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was like thinking it was Wild, but it's a fanfic of Grey's Anatomy.
Isn't that show crazy enough?
I know.
Who's writing fic about that? No shade. Like, write what you want. I'm just surprised that people...
Plenty of shade.
Just a little bit.
I don't even want to... I'm not even going to read that. Like, Grey's Anatomy... I mean, you're right. It's out there. It's about, let's see, she's an author, she's a deadline, bad case of writer's block, blah, blah, blah. She heads to Belgium. Okay, so it's like a I'm trying to find myself kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think this is a lesbian romance. Due to a shared flight itinerary, Juliet and Mia happen to meet in the airport lounge. Ooh, airport lounge. This next one looks cute just because I love the cover. It's got a glass of wine and a spilled popcorn container, and it's called Popcorn Love.
Oh, that's adorable.
Isn't it super cute?
Yeah.
And this is a Once Upon a Time fanfic turned into a book.
Huh.
Okay. A busy businesswoman and single mother to a 3-year-old boy, Elena Vega, seems to have it all, except for the fact her love life is non-existent. Why is this a theme in all of these stories? Like,
everything's great, except I can't have sex.
Everything's great. She loves her life, except she doesn't have sex. Like, oh my god. That's such a thing, though. Her friends set her up on a series of blind dates, but Elena only agrees to go if she can find a decent babysitter for her kid. That's where New York University senior Allison Sawyer comes in.
Oh my goodness.
Elena is impressed with the way Allison is immediately able to connect with her shy son. That's enough to earn her the job. Each blind date Elena goes on leaves her frustrated because no one measures up, especially when she realizes the perfect person for her is Allison. Ooh. Okay, I might read that book.
Yeah, put that on the list.
I'm kind of into that. And then the last one here is Rhythm, Chord, and Malakin? I think that's how you say it.
Malkin?
This is another Twilight fanfic. Don't even need it. Next.
Skip it.
Then the last one, it's not on this list, but I wanted to see if you had heard of it. This was a movie that came out recently called After. And I couldn't remember the name of it. I was like, it was either after or later or before. Like, it was like a one-word time-related thing. But yeah, it's called After, and it came out, I want to say fairly recently, like just like a few months ago.
Okay.
And it was like a like college teen romance something. And but I didn't realize it came originally from a fanfic, and the fanfic is a Harry Styles fanfic from One Direction specifically.
Yeah!
So, I mean, I just was like, oh,
there's a lot of One Direction fic where they all just are into each other.
Okay, so we decided that we had to share at least a couple short fanfiction stories with our listeners. And again, if you're following us on Patreon and supporting us, you will definitely have a few more coming your way. Boop, boop. Keyword coming your way. And this one is from Wattpad.com,
Great.
which I have read books off of before too and stories off of. So I'm all about it. And I want to say that this one found me, and I didn't find it because I wasn't looking for it, and here it is. So
wow.
This is Buffy the Vampire Cockslayer.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
With over 4,000, I'm going to guess, views, like the little eyeball symbol. Is that what that is? 4,000 reads?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. I think I'm going to actually, let's see, I might skip. No, you know what? I'll just read fast. Here we go.
Yeah, read fast or read the summary or whatever you want.
Here we go. Buffy the Vampire Cockslayer. It was another warm day in Sunnydale. Buffy, Willow, and Anya were all hanging outside of the college discussing last night's showdown with the Chaos Demon and how they all felt odd after it had ended. Like there was something wrong with them. It's going to be a challenge to get through this. Putting it down to tiredness, they decided to tan and make plans for a girly night at the Bronze. Ooh. Cordelia was in town, and as annoying as she was, they thought it'd be nice to hang out with her again. Oh my god, it's spot on though. After all, it was a very stressful time for Buffy. Riley had just left. Her life had been changed by a fake sister moving in, and Harmony was terrorizing the town with her tacky outfits and her chaotic plans. Not to mention having to hear about the sex Willow and Anya were having with Xander and how it was magical. Nope. Tonight was Buffy's right to relax and not have to worry about patrol or stories of her friends' threesomes. Oh, you know how that happens.
Ugh, the worst.
Finally, getting to the Bronze, the group ordered a few drinks and got down to dancing. Buffy, wearing her usual leather jacket, was getting a lecture from Cordelia about how she never dresses to impress, and maybe that's why guys leave her. Whoa, shots fired,
my
Cordelia.
Goodness, Cordelia.
Yikes. Yet Buffy was too occupied. In the corner, she could see a guy in old-fashioned clothes flirting with some girl. The guy and the girl walked outside. Buffy followed closely, creeper, that's just me, not the story, following the couple into an abandoned building. There, Buffy could see naked humans and vampires fucking, hear them moaning as the vamps drank the blood from the humans during what looked to be some rather rough sex.
Oh my god.
Ooh, this just got True Blood up in here.
Seriously.
Better. I like that this is her first line of dialogue. Better put an end to this, Buffy thought. She grabbed the biggest vampire she could find, went to punch him, but she couldn't. She tried again, failing. She went to reach for her steak, only to fish out a long, thick, black dildo. You know when you go to find that steak in your belt, but really there's a giant rubber
dildo?
Oh god, I hate that happens.
It's like when I go in my backpack to find a pen and I just find a huge vibe.
Yeah, oh
yeah,
god, I left that pen at home.
Damn it.
Oh my god. What the hell is going on? Buffy said to herself as the vampires closed in on her. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw him, the Chaos Demon from last night, the one she thought she had slain. Guess not if you're using a big black dick.
Seriously, oh no.
God. The vampires drew closer, but she couldn't fight. She tried to run, but the door was now blocked by more vampires. She was scared. She couldn't fight, but God, was her pussy wet. She tried to fight it. She thought it must have been some sort of chaos spell, but the Slayer had not been turned on this much since her encounter with Angel. But this was different. The danger, the size of some of the cocks, and even the blood made her nipples hard and her panties soaking. She bit her lip. Her hand slid over her chest, her breathing heavy as they closed in on her. She thought this was it. Stop! Suddenly, Buffy came to her senses. Looking up the stairs, she could see a naked Spike. Oh, I love Spike. I was so
He's
team
the blonde
Spike.
one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the super like bleached tips.
Bleached blonde, yeah.
Blood on his mouth and his hard cock standing to attention. The Slayer is mine, Spike proclaimed, walking towards Buffy. Her eyes were glued to his cock as he walked towards her. Spike took her in his arms and started kissing down her neck.
Oh my god.
Buffy moaned as her hand ran down Spike's back, grasping his firm buttocks as he kissed his way down.
Oh my goodness.
To her nipples.
Oh,
gently
nipples.
licking and sucking them. Buffy moaned
goodness.
softly as Spike caressed her nipples with his mouth. She started scratching up and down his back hard, which made Spike's cock throb.
Oh yeah.
It's throbbing cock. Buffy could feel it twitch against her. She simply had to have it. Mm-hmm. She ran her hands down Spike's body till her soft hands were stroking his cock. She enclosed her hand around it and slowly started stroking it. Whew. As she fell to her knees. Ooh, she quick. Buffy continued stroking as she put her lips to the tip. This is like so much rhyme and like alliteration in this one.
Yeah, wow.
Slowly kissing it, then flicking her tongue up and down from side to side, then licking down the shaft to the vampire's balls.
Yummy.
She continued to stroke as she started to lick and suck the balls, making the cock twitch even more with the pleasure. With the pleasure.
The pleasure.
All right, the pleasure.
Capital T in there. The pleasure.
The pleasure. Spike couldn't contain himself any longer. He ripped the clothes off the Slayer, picked her up, and pushed his hard cock deep in her soaking wet pussy.
Ooh.
Buffy moaned louder as she started to kiss and bite Spike's neck. Funny that it's meant to be the other way around, Spike moaned as he impaled his cock deep in Buffy's
God,
tight
that always
hole.
sounds so painful. That doesn't sound hot in any way, shape, or form.
In her tight hole. Yikes.
Toit.
Spike,
Hoity-toity.
please bite me. Spike obliged. Blood ran down Buffy's neck to her hard nipples as Spike started fucking her deeper, faster, harder. Buffy thought it would tear her apart with how big it was, but she loved the sensation of her pussy being pounded by this monster.
Oh my god.
She came once, twice. Her pussy was aching.
Ouch.
Once, twice. Spike laid down and let the Slayer do some work. Oh, that's so kind of you.
I'm bored. You do all the work.
You do it now. Now that you've come once, twice.
Ugh, so boring.
She looked in Spike's eyes as she rode up and down, moaning loudly, her pussy on fire, so caught up in the moment that she didn't realize
Jesus.
someone was behind her.
What?
Before she could realize the presence, a hard, thick cock filled her tiny ass.
Oh no!
You know what? This is the point where I'm like,
are you kind of done?
It's too unrealistic. And then she says, "It's too big," Buffy screamed as she felt her tight anus spread wide open.
Oh no!
"You'll be fine, Buffy." She recognized the voice. It was Angel. Slowly.
Oh my god, that other character that's really hot.
Yeah, they're
wow.
all together.
It's
and
amazing.
He's in her tight anus. Slowly, Angel and Spike eased in and out of Buffy, getting her used to being so stuffed until she was begging them to go harder. I've already talked about this on the pod. Stuffed, I do not appreciate in romance because it makes me think of turkey. So
it made me think of stuffed peppers.
Okay, but we're both in the food.
Pretty much,
shows
yeah.
how fat we are.
Yeah.
Needing no further invitation, Angel and Spike thrust in deeper, faster, harder. Ugh. Fuck me. Make me your dirty little Slayer slut. Both vampires got deeper, harder.
Nice.
The louder she got, the harder they fucked. Buffy was in vampire cock heaven.
Oh my goodness.
Hoping it would never end, but then both vampires came deep inside of her.
Oh my god.
This lifted the Chaos Demon's curse, and Buffy was in sudden realization of what had happened. She left the building, killing all but 2 vampires. "I'll keep Spike and Angel around just in case," she thought to herself. Wow.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Was that the whole thing?
That's the whole thing.
I'm so impressed.
Well, okay, it does say, like, you click a button and it says continue reading the next part. But then when you click the next part, it goes to a supernatural fan fiction. Like, it's like Sam, Dean, and Cass. So I don't know.
Having a sweet, sweet three-way.
Oh boy, I think the standouts for me are that she carries the black dildo with
that she
her,
takes it out, she goes, what?
And that she enjoys herself in vampire cock heaven.
Amazing.
Great, as we all can only aspire to enjoy. So
yeah,
that's my tale, tale for everyone. Did you ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I actually didn't.
No, okay, because I was going to say, I feel like Buffy was like the original Twilight, where it was kind of like you were either like team Angel or Team Spike.
Right.
So I was totally Team Spike, because he was just like, the sexy bad boy, whatever. And
Angel was Angel.
Angel was Angel, and I honestly don't even remember. I feel like I started watching in later years, and like I think Angel, he didn't die because he had his own show, like spin-off show. So I don't remember why he wasn't there. I'm not a diehard Buffy fan, but I just know that he became the guy on Bones. He was the detective on Bones.
He's the Bones guy.
Yeah, I would read that fanfic because he was like sexy as hell. So
hell yeah.
So what have you decided to share with us?
All right, so I'm going to do the ones that I found are all kind of long. So I will just give a little preview. I've got two. One that I think people will be a little bit more familiar with, one that I think is a little bit more niche, but maybe someone's going to want to try it. This one is called The Return. It is a Teen Wolf fanfic.
Okay.
By user Lollipop L.
As opposed to Lollipop K, Lollipop M.
That's right, Lollipop L specifically. The relationship is Derek Hale, and Styles.
Okay.
Which was a very popular...
I never watched this show.
Oh, okay. So
this
is like, Styles is like the comedic sidekick friend that actually becomes really important later. Okay. And Derek Hale is like the original werewolf.
Got it.
That turns the main character into a werewolf, or you're led to believe. People think they're hot together. All right. Yeah. Here's the summary. Rearranging the furniture, Derek comes across an aluminum bat, and the night he found it feels like a lifetime ago. It's lost most of its identifying scent, but Derek would still know it's Styles anyway.
Why does it smell if it's an aluminum bat?
Because he's a werewolf. He can smell things. Okay. I don't question the logic. A bat may not fight off a demon in one's head, but it was still a weapon, a personal item, another loose end. All right. And then a more simplified summary. Derek returns Styles' bat in an attempt to bring closure after the Nogitsune is defeated, aka a necessary added scene because somehow Styles got his bat back by season 4 and Derek had it last. So this is clearly meant to be
I like that though, because I was like, this is so specific that like a character's returning somebody's baseball bat
because it happened in the show and it didn't seem to make any sense. I love it. I love it.
Fantastic.
They also say this is my first time posting, so please be kind, which is like
that's cute. That's cute. Okay, Lollipop L, we got your back.
That's right. I'll just read this first 2 paragraphs and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Derek is still pretty shaken up. The Nogitsune is no more, besides the fly in the Triskele box, and everyone is trying to return to some sense of normalcy. Derek has never known normal to exist in Beacon Hills, but loose ends need to be tied sometimes. He just wishes those loose ends weren't funerals and vague police reports.
This is good writing.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't bad writing at all.
No. The loft doesn't need as many repairs as previous disasters demanded, though the roof still leaks around the place where Jenifno, the Darach, I'm so sorry.
That's pretty good, I mean, honestly.
The Darach had smashed through it. There are no new bloodstains than the ones already there, and the glass windows are still intact. After finally getting rid of the last flecks of the glow-in-the-dark paint, kids in their raves these days, Derek takes to constantly rearranging the minimalist furniture to keep his thoughts away from Aiden's shaky breaths, from Allison's tinny voice over the phone, from Styles' face crying in front of a gun only to twist and demand they fire, from Isaac's beaten stance as he announced he was leaving. Derek winces as he feels his last beta slipping away from him, and he decides the couch cushions should all be flipped.
Oh, I understand that.
He just has to flip them.
That's like, my roommate could tell you, she'll come home and I'll have rearranged the entire living room.
Oh,
like,
so you related to that.
Yeah, that's for sure, like, something I find, like, super therapeutic is, like, cleaning. But then, you know, like, when you're like, I'm gonna clean the kitchen. Like, and then it's like you find something in the kitchen that you need to, like, return to the bathroom, and you're like, oh, well, since I'm in here, I have to clean this too. Like, that's how I clean, is like, I'll get sidetracked and, you know, end up doing the whole house at once, and then eventually I move the furniture, and so I completely understand that.
Yes.
So sexy.
I'm sure it gets sexy later. All right.
Yeah.
And this other one that I have to suggest is a little bit off the beaten path.
Okay.
It is a 5-chapter long anime fic from a series that is about basketball players.
Okay.
I'm going to say if you want to...
sports and anime
Sports
all in
and
one.
anime, except this one takes them out of their world and puts them in, like, an alternate universe where they get just ordinary jobs. Like, maybe they liked basketball in the past, but now, like, some of them are firefighters, some of them are police officers, some of them are teachers. And then also they fuck.
Well, of course, yeah.
So it's called Bird on a Wire by user Lysapadin.
Okay.
And I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs again.
You go to town.
All right. This one has Japanese names, which means let's hope I can pronounce them.
Yes!
Oh, it starts with a quote. Like a baby stillborn, like a beast with his horn, I have torn everyone who reached out for me. Now that's angsty. There was one point on which Kagami Taiga and Aomine Daiki were in full and absolute agreement, and it was this. It was all Tetsuya's fault. Oh, there were certainly contributing factors in play. Neither of them could or would have been bothered to deny it, but the beginning of it was definitely Tetsuya's doing. Daiki might have antagonized his boss a time or two too many by submitting half-assed paperwork. What? He was a busy guy, and besides, who cared as long as the bad guys ended up behind bars where they belonged? Jeez. And Taiga might have been a little too slow about paying back the favors he owed to the other guys at the firehouse. He was gonna return the favors. Seriously, except that nothing had really come up lately. Otherwise, he wouldn't have owed so many of the guys all at the same time. Honest. But it was definitely Tetsuya who had gone to his principal and pitched the idea to him with heartfelt sincerity beaming from every pore. Tetsuya had never claimed not to be evil.
I like that you read this with, like, such attitude and, like, conviction.
Course.
Like, of course he was going to do this.
Yeah, of course he was.
God, and apologies for the oven beeping halfway through because
Abby
and I decided that we had to make chocolate chip cookies.
I need
tonight.
cookies after all this juicy gossip.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's, you know, just like Buffy, like
pulling out that
pussy's
wet. Pulling that dildo out.
Cookies to go with my big black dildo.
That's right.
Okay, are there, like, audiobooks for fanfiction?
There are.
I was going to say, you should totally read these.
Oh, thank you.
You definitely should, because you have, like, so much fun. You can just, like, tell. I mean, I know nobody's, like, looking at you except for me, but just listening to you, you're, like, so animated, like, reading them. And I'm just like, I would so listen to you read these.
All right, so I'm not going to read the rest because this one really, like, puts a lot of detail in front.
Slow burn.
But the summary is, there's these 2 characters that broke up a long time ago.
Ooh, second chance romance.
And they are brought back together at this safety demonstration at the school, and they have to work their feelings out.
There we go.
And it might turn into a threesome later.
Fine, you
Who
know,
gives a
as
shit?
romances usually do, right? It's like, you know, you get together, great, okay, this is good, but we're gonna get bored. Like, we gotta bring
shake
Angel
it up
in.
a little bit.
You gotta get somebody else. Okay, cool.
So there are my 2 suggestions.
There you go.
If you couldn't tell, I tend to go for ones that are way more like story first. And then porn.
Those are some of my favorite romance novels too.
Build the world out.
The ones that we've reviewed for the podcast that I generally like more of are when you fall in love with the characters, then you can buy into the romance. You can buy, and I mean, obviously,
exactly.
Sometimes you just want what we call the one-handed read, where it's like you just want the dirty, and that is absolutely fine.
We call that PWP, which is porn without plot.
Yeah, buddy. Which is how I think of porn most of the time, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have plot.
No, and that's basically what makes it porn. Like, I remember when I was taking, like, a filmmaking class, and we were talking about, like, the different ratings and regulations, and, like, what makes something porn as opposed to, like, NC-17 or, like, an R rating. And it basically is that there is no like thematic element. There's no plot to it. Like, yeah, it might be that she's a nurse and she needs to cure that fever he's got.
All right.
So, but yeah, no, PWP.
PWP or PWF, which is porn with feelings.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Yeah. I feel like there's so many things, so many terms that have come out of fan fiction that could be applied to so many other facets of our life that would make things easier and better, so and like just easier. A better way of communicating. And it's so interesting to me. So, but I do like, I love that, if nothing else, my takeaway from this is that there really is fan fiction for so many more things than I expected. Like, I really just expected it to cover a lot of anime and manga and like specific fandoms,
like kind of more niche.
Yeah, and the fact that there's sports fanfic and the real real person fiction.
Yeah,
real person fiction. I mean, there really is so much that I'm like, oh, that's something that I would be interested in. And I mean, that's basically what we do on this podcast, is, you know, ask people to try something that they wouldn't necessarily think about, and more often than not, they discover a genre that they never would have otherwise considered.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's really how I feel with us talking about this. So thank you for that.
You are so welcome. I'm so glad I could, like, give you a little bit more insight on it. And you're right. It really is. I think it gets a bad rap. Absolutely. As a lot of things that are started by women, unfortunately, do.
Oh, yeah.
I think it gets a bad rap as being this kind of, like, amateur hour where people just are horny and they want to write, like, whipping out a dildo and then getting fucked from both directions.
Which is clearly probably the point of Buffy, the
Cockslayer anyways. But I think at this point in time, it's really evolved into being this space where artists can explore themes, different writing styles, different genres with the characters that they've come to love and they think deserve more, basically.
Yeah, and if nothing else, just they want a different ending. The ending they thought they deserved.
Or they wanted hockey players to switch bodies and then fuck each other in those switched bodies.
Well, that's something we're going to have to talk about on the Patreon.
Oh,
because
100%.
That's something I'm going to need to know more about. So last little thing is, for anybody that's interested in checking out fan fiction that hasn't already, what would be some websites or apps or, you know, tools that they might be able to reference?
So I would say 100% the number one place to go is archiveofourown.org. This is AO3. It is completely community run with donations.
Oh, fantastic.
So, like, they will send out those periodic emails being like, we need you to help us run the site. It's run by fans for fans.
Okay.
It has an extensive library that's separated into fandoms: anime and manga, books and literature, cartoons, comics and graphic novels, celebrities and real people, movies, music and bands, other media, theater, TV show, video games, and uncategorized.
Wow.
And then within that, they have a beautiful filtration system that makes sure that you can say, I only want to read G-rated fic, I only want to read X-rated fic.
Great.
They also can let you check the tag warnings. So if you're squicked out by something or you're triggered by something, you say, I don't want to read anything that has non-consensual sex.
Sure.
You can go into their sort and filter system on the side of the website and make sure that those ones don't show up for you.
Good.
So that's why I really like it, because it's super well organized and they work really hard to make sure that the fans are catered to and also feel safe.
Good. And
so that would be my place to start.
You know, relationships should be. That's how sex should be. So
100%.
That's fantastic.
Yep. And then if you're looking for something a little bit more wild, go to fanfiction.net, because that's the OG.
OG.
So you can go there to find, like, there's this really infamous Harry Potter fan fiction, which was a self-insert. So, like, a character that somebody wrote to represent them that was perfect in every way. And I think her name was, like, Ebony Stargazer. And I think Sonic the Hedgehog is in it, too. It's, like, one of those things where there's, like, lots of crossover. And it's famous for being bad, but also, like, so clearly somebody's dream that they just, like, went ham on.
Yes.
So we'll talk about it more on the Patreon, maybe.
Yes.
But, like, if you want to find some of those older, a little bit more, like, out there fix, you go to fanfiction.net to find some of those really crazy old gems. So I would go there next.
Love. Mm-hmm. Love. That's fantastic. Well, that's something to get everybody started. And again, if you decide that you want to get a little extra content between Abby and I, we're definitely going to record some for Patreon. So please check it out. And we still have a couple more book reviews coming to you this month. So enjoy the rest of your May. And thanks for joining me, Abby.
Thanks for having me.